Recording progress, that's always good. So we have Motzei Shabbos, sipurey Baal Shemtov, Sichos Haran, and Motzei Shabbos Va'era. It's interesting. There was a question that was raised last Motzei Shabbos about the inyan of Moshe Rabbeinu, Mr. Kodesh Baruch Hu, telling him, tell Paro to send my people to serve me. And Moshe Rabbeinu said that they want to go for 3 days. And there's a question, it wasn't really that they wanted to go for 3 days. They meant going out is adios amigo, that's it. So why did they say 3 days? And Baruch Hu told him to say that just going out, to serve Hashem, this we're coming back, and we find this very interesting progression that we keep on seeing and meeting. It starts with the first encounter between Moshe Rabbeinu and Paro, and that is that Moshe Rabbeinu tells Paro, Hashem send my people, let my people go. And Paro said, Hashem who? I don't know. Who is he to let me know? Let the people go. So in a way, the 10 plagues, the 10 makas are divided into the Tzach Hadash Ba'achab, the Simonim and the Agoda, which means that it's not just that they're making them easier to remember, but Paro starts with he doesn't know who Hashem is. Okay? So the first mitzvahs the first makas are, okay, let me show you who is the one in charge. Dam tzvardei kinim. By the time that kinim, the lice, has hit, Paro is aware of Hashem. He knows who he is. But he knows it like in a general oifen, like it goes to Dam. Well, the Chatumim can also do something like that. The Tzvardeya, okay, the Chatumim can also do that. They can't do it in the water, but they can do it outside of the water, which is another issue altogether. And then there's kinim. Kinim is lice. A demon cannot do any any technical effects with an animal that is smaller than a grain of barley. So here the Chatoim say, that's it. This is already above our pay grade. The second plague, the set of clays, is borrowed, is arov, dash, a dash. It's not just that there is Hashem, but it says, Ani Hashem shalit b'chol haaretz. I'm the one that controls everything. It's not just I am able to do things like make the water into blood and this, no. I am the one who rules in Thailand. And the last four were basically done in darkness. In other words, even the locusts, this is that it darkened the skies of Egypt. Everything's done. In other words, in order to show that not only that Hashem exists, not only that Hashem can do what He wants, not only that Hashem can do what He wants anywhere, but there is nobody outside of Hashem. Because the Egyptian worship the sun god. Okay, so everything here, the sun was covered. Your sun god cannot do anything. The Shboch is the one who runs everything. In the first Makkahs this week, Paro says, he's going like back and forth. First of all, he doesn't pay attention to it. Then he says, okay, Moshe Rabbeinu, please, daven for the frogs will leave. Actually, according to some of the Rishonim, the frogs at question here, Moshe Rabbeinu, if you remember, say, give me a challenge. When do you want me to pray that the frogs will go away? And it says they will leave you and they only remain in the Nile. Why? What do we care? They're going to remain in the Nile. I mean, all the other animals, whatever it is, they go away. Let them go away. Who cares where they are? But the frogs are a different kind of mark. In other words, Hashem stripes Mitzrayim and leaves a reminder. Like somebody who hits somebody with a stick, and then he takes the stick and hangs it up on the wall for everybody to remember, anybody in the... So, you start up with me, there's the stick. The what we call the frog was not just frogs, they were reptilians. According to some of the Rishonim, the frogs that were left in the Nile are actually the crocodiles in the Nile. So that's one nasty frog, okay? I mean, it's just a little thing that the French like to eat, I'm talking about here, these bad animal with big appetites. It's not a... The first Makkah's Parah says, okay, he plays around. He thinks he can play around with Moshe Rabbeinu. He thinks he can play around with Kadosh Baruch Hu. And he says, okay, Paro is like, he knows he's he's making his own heart heavy. In other words, he's fortifying himself not to listen to what Moshe Rabbeinu tells him and his warnings. About the fifth, sixth makkah already we say that Hashem is making the Paro's heart heavy. In other words, it's no longer Paro, being an oxen, being stubborn, but Kadosh Baruch Hu makes his heart dense. So comes the question, why would you want to do that? If you want to bring the plagues on him, just bring the plagues on him. Why go through these seeming charade, going to him, warning him, and then making his own heart heavy so he will say no, and then beating him up. Beat him up! Why go through this? That sort of explains the whole Inyan of Paro, first of all, saying no on his own, and then Hashem has to force him, has to make it, the decision to let Am Yisrael go even more difficult, given the propensity to say no. And we go back to those 3 days that Moshe Rabbeinu says, let my people go, we just want to go for 3 days, which is obviously not the truth. The answer is that Paro is such a vain person. He's so steeped in this world, which is a nekuda that we'll touch in Sichos Haran in Mitzvah Hashem. He's so steeped in this world that if a Kadosh Baruch, like a politician, if a Kadosh Baruch would have told him, listen, let my people go completely, from the get-go, there's no way that Paro would have been able to emotionally agree. There's no Bechira there. As you can see, when he found out after Makas Bechiras, when he just says, just get up, take everything you own, and out of here, all of you. The minute they tell him, they're running away, they're not coming back, he chases after them. For Paro, to come to Paro in the very beginning, tell him just let him go, forget about 3 days, that's it, adios, they're gone. He would not have been able, would not have any bechira, any choice. There's no way. So the first Makas, Paro made his own decision. He still thought that there's a way in, there's a way out, maybe this, maybe that. There's also kavod involved, I'm going to listen to what Moshe says. I'm Paro, I'm the king. But after the fifth, sixth makkah, any normal person, no matter how vain he might be, would just crack. There'll be no more bechira. In other words, the fact that Hashem makes Paro's heart heavy is not to take away the bechira from Paro, but the other way around. But to make a bechira still possible for him. After he got smitten so many times, if he would have left his own devices, he would have no bechira, he would just get up and go and leave. Hashem has to make his heart heavy, so the decision whether to let Am Yisrael go or not is still in the hands of Paro. Paro has a bechira from beginning to end. Yes, Hashem did it in order to show everybody that Hashem is the revelation of Kadosh Baruch Hu, is the ruler of reality. But at the same time, it was done very carefully in such a way that Pari always, always, always has choice. Until, of course, he doesn't, and the Egyptian go into the sea. So, we always have choice. And we'll talk a little bit more about where we are choice-wise, emunah-wise, and where it leads us. Let's move on to the Baal Shemtov story. It's a segula to say a story of the Baal Shemtov. Because it's a segula for a good week. So here's the story for this week. In the very beginning, when the Baal Shemtov was still a tzaddik nistar, the Baal Shemtov used to go from one village to the next and get the people together and make a kumzitz, be mechazak them in emunah, and be me'oyer them of Israel, daven properly. During his trip, he came to the town of Brod, and he got this group of Yidden, be mechazak them in emunah, limenter. Suddenly, he sees a Jew that looks like a porter, carrying a really large, heavy load, very quietly, silently. But the Baal Shemtov, being the Baal Shemtov, having the eyes of the Baal Shemtov, he saw something that nobody saw about this person. This Yid was called Hershel Tzig. That was his name. There was a column of light above his head. Nobody saw it except the Baal Shemtov. So, Baal Shemtov figured that must be one of the hidden tzaddikim. And he asked Kadosh Baruch Hu to let him know what's the seed, what's that light that is shining above his head. For 3 days, the Baal Shemtov followed this person and saw that he was a porter who grew goats. That's it. So the Baal Shemtov came to Hershel Tzig and asked him to buy some goat's milk. We all know goat's milk, Baruch Hashem, it's very healthy. Let's to buy. So, Hershel's eyes, lighted up. Simcha, come over, and quench your thirst, with goat's milk, no charge. And that's the way they went over to the little hut of Rabbi Hershel Tzig Tzigel is a goat, by the way. So Hershel Tzig is probably the Hershel of the goats. It was to his house, and when they came to the house, they saw 4 goats waiting for their masters. And he came to them, he petted them, he smiled at them, he milked a glass of milk, he filtered it, and he gave it, very light faces, he gave it to the Baal Shemtov. And then he sat by the table, and he told his guest, he opened up his heart, and he told him something that he has never done. He told him, 10 years earlier, he tells him, his wife passed away, and she was a very tzniusdik, a big tzaddikus. She was a big balas chesed, and the main mitzvah that she used to stick to was bikuchon, visiting the sick. That was her big mitzvah. After she passed away, she came to her husband in a dream and told him that the of the greatness of the mal of doing chesed with somebody else, of doing a favor to another Jew. Tremendous, tremendous ma'ila. What a great schar there is of doing a favor to somebody else. And she told them about all the neshamas that she helped, that they came and they advocated for her and they help her. So she's judged favorably in the Shema. And she told them every single favor that you do another Jew is extremely important in the Shema. And she recommended to me, this person said, that since I'm just, I'm a very simple Jew, I don't know how to learn. She told me that I have to be oisek with tzedakah and chesed. And she said I should be very careful to do whatever it is I do in hiding, so nobody will see what it is that I'm doing. He says, I heard what she said. The money, he says, that I earn in my profession of being a porter, I bought 4 goats, and I feed them well, so they will make, good, healthy milk. And the goats I milk, and that milk I give to poor people, to sick people, to young children, and to young mothers. This is the Kadosh Baruch Hu, is Reifek Kol Basar, is helping, and this milk helps the sick and b'mechazik, wherever it is that drinks goat's milk, as we said, is a very healthy thing. And if you ask me, says this Yid, why did I tell you that story? The wife said you should not tell anyone, right? So why am I telling you this story? He says, I'll tell you. He says, because last night, he says, his wife came to him in a dream. And she said that tomorrow I'm going to meet someone who will ask for a warm glass of goat's milk. So she told me to invite him to my house and tell him what it is that I do, and through him there'll be great bracha coming to me. And the Meshach told that story to Baal Shemtov, was a very young man. Now the Baal Shemtov understood what is this light above the head of this young man, of this man. He has all this tzedakah, all this chesed, deeds that he was doing that's shining on his head. So from that day on, the Baal Shemtov took him in to the Chabura of the Tzaddikim Nestorim, and he taught them, and they taught him, this is from the Torah. And he went up and up and up in Torah and Avodas Hashem. And he never ever stopped doing the chesed that he was doing until his last day. Maybe Ratzon, we should be marabin in the mitzvahs of Israel and do a lot of chesed, ruchnius and gashmis, with the people of our households and with our friends, and B'ezrat Hashem, we'll be zorchet to Geula Shleima B'ezrat Hashem soon in our days. Okay, now let's take a quick look, as it were, in Sichos Haran. Here goes. We are now in chapter 102, Kaf Beis. The text is it's not that long. It's long-ish. However, it is self-explanatory. So I'll just read through it, and then we'll maybe if there's time we'll talk about it. I heard from Rabbeinu's name, says Rav Nosson, on the pasuk Lo hibit oven b'Yaakov, Kadosh Baruch Hu does not see a sin in Yaakov, v'lo ra'omel b'Yisrael, and he didn't see, wrongdoing in Am Yisrael. Hashem Eloikav Imoy, Hashem, his God is with him. Utruas melech bo. Now, trua is, a blow. The blow of the king is in him. And Nosson says, I forgot the main Indian Rabbeinu was talking about. However, what I remember is this is a truas melech bo. Trua, there's a shofar, it's a blow. But it's a blow in other ways as well. A truas is lashon shvira, breaking. As a cause of Tehillim, teroim b'shevet bazel. You'll break them, you'll wreck them with an iron stick, an iron rod. So teroim, lashon trua, means you break them, you wreck them. Hainu k'shemeshabrim sakfiros, when a person breaks his inherent heresies in him, azai melech boy, then the king is in him. What does it mean? You find HaKadosh Baruch Hu also in the heresies. When you break the heresies, you find HaKadosh Baruch Hu within the heresies as well. He says, because within the talk of heresies is also HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. It's a very, very profound nekuda. It's not just when you break the inherent heresies that are within you, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu is revealed to you, which is obvious. But when a person breaks his own inner heresies, within the heresies that he broke, these false opinions and beliefs which he broke, he sees HaKadosh Baruch Hu there as well. And he continues. He also said that the scientists and philosophers, their lives are not a life at all, even in this world. Because the minute something happens to them which is not the way they want it, how much more so when there's a trouble, they don't have who to turn to. Because as far as I'm concerned, everything is nature. So they have nothing to bring themselves up, to prop himself up. He says, Aval ish emunah, a person of faith, that believe in Hashem, his life is very, very good. Even chas v'sholom, a real trouble goes over him, even then he can be mechai himself. And you trust Hashem that everything is for good. Either through the sufferings, they will, deduct from his averes, or that Hashem will get to a real toiv gdoilo at the end. So either way, the kavanah Kadosh Baruch Hu is always for the good. That's why ish emunah is a person of faith. Lives good life, always. This world and the next world. But the mechakrim, the intellectuals, the philosophers, the scientists, they have no chayes. They have no chayes, not in this world, not the next one. And he says this is something which is very well known to anybody who knows these kind of people. Their life is always, always, always filled with suffering. Because it's not possible that everything in their life will always behave to them, will always, be the way they want it. Since they just choose this world, which is completely filled with suffering and with anguish, Rahman al-Islam, that's why at every point in time, they have tremendous sorrow. They have tremendous suffering. They have worries, what's going to be, what's this. The more they purchase, the more I have what to worry about. With legendary fortunes come legendary problems. And all their days are filled with pain. He says, because it's not possible that everything will go for a person in this world, everything will be the way he wants. There's no way. So if you're not focused on what the end is, you hope for Olam Haba, only the urges of this world. So b'vadai, a person is completely and totally filled with suffering. And he says, and whenever the suffering comes, they have nothing to rejuvenate themselves with. To lift up their morale, But Aish Kosher, however, an El Chayid, since he believes in the truth, and his main hope is for Olam Haba, that's how his life is very good. Because whatever that passes on him is for the good. Either to remind him to do tshuva, or for kapara for whatever it is that he did. Which is forever. And now Rabbeinu says even more so, and this is important. It's all important. It says even the yisurim and the suffering that the person, a Elchid, has, a tzar of charata, that he's sorry that he did an avera. He's sorry that he fudged, that he slipped up. Even if he did an avera, mamash did an avera. Afterwards, when he is zoicha to actually regret it, even though he has big tsar, he's a big yisurim from the fact, I can't believe I did that. Some of us did some bad stuff. When we look back, whoa, what's going to be? What's going to be in Mazeh? What's going to be Olam Haba? How could we? He says, these Yisurim, Einam Yisurim Klal. This is not suffering at all. The tsar that these Yisurim that a person has because he did an Avera, Chas v'Shalom, these kind of Yisurim, they add life to a person. You have more days. You live a longer life. So you should know that all the years and all the Yisurim that the person has, normally, it shortens the life of a man. It finishes off his life. That's why the Kala Olam, these people that don't pay attention to Torah and they're busy with chikiris and philosophies and intellectuals and being intellectual idiots. Their life are not life. They're filled with yisurim, they're filled with sufferings, and their worries are eating up their lives. But all the years and the yisurim the person has because of Yiras Hashem, because I'm sorry that I did what I did that I shouldn't have done, they add life. Yiras Hashem toisif yomim. Yiras Hashem will add days. And not only this, but these yisurim that a person has because he transgressed. He did in a very chas v'shalom. And he has big tzar from these yisurim that is a pchinas Yiras Hashem toisif yomim. He says because his yisurim, his suffering, is because he's afraid of Hashem. Either because the awe of the grandeur of Hashem, the awe, or he's afraid he's going to be punished. He says, no matter which way, it fits the criteria of Yiras Hashem. Because it's all a result of Yiras Shamayim. You're afraid of Hashem. That's why it adds days. It adds days. It gives you life. He says, and besides that, besides the fact that it gives you life, a person who has ish emunah, his tshuva is easier. Why? Because the tshuva has to be tshuva samishkal. It has to be equal to the kind of pleasure that the person got from the Avera. The kind of pleasure that the person from the Avera, he has to have the same kind of tsar of Yisurim. Now, being that person has a muno, even when he did the stuff that he needed not to do, his pleasure was incomplete. While that thing was going on, you say, no, what am I doing? He knew. Within that pleasure, quote unquote, whatever it is already mixed up with the anguish of knowing that, yo, dude, it's going to end in tears. This is not ending well. And there will be very harsh and severe punishment, very bitter. What can he do? He couldn't overcome his taiva. That's why his tshuva is going to be easier. Because he doesn't have to suffer all these surim of the tshuva. Why? Because even the Avera, he didn't enjoy completely. While he was doing the Avera, he was always, oh man, am I ever going to get there? I'm going to get it. Now I'm really going to get it. So it's not like he went out and really had pleasure, b'shleimus. He says, the philosophers, that they don't have emunah, their tshuva is extremely difficult. Why? They didn't have yisurim, they didn't have suffering during the Avera. Because the tshuva has to be tshuva samiskal, the tshuva has to be, equal to the kind of pleasure that derive from the Averas. It says, and take a look in the Sefer of the Shlach or the Shnei Luchas Abris, Masechah Shavuos, and over there, he mentions how crucial it is and how severe it is. The Isser even looking at these philosophy books. And he says that anybody who looks into them, learn philosophy, learn this, learn that, find out, there is, there isn't, Hago, whatever it is. He says it doesn't have a chelik olam haba shemrachem. And some kadmoinim, some of the Rishonim said that it's such an isser to look in books that deal with philosophy. He says that this is isser which is worse than all the verse in the Torah. As we said when we were learning on Monday nights, we're dealing with Maisa Bechochem V'tam, the wise man and the simpleton. We said that, first of all, the simpleton started being a shoemaker. The wise man, the sophisticated, didn't want to be, it's not a job for him. I'm going to be a shoemaker. Are you kidding me? So, first of all, let's go to the market, take a look. Let's going into business. Went to Warsaw. Went to business. Okay, nothing wrong with that. But when you go out of Eis Hashem because, what can I do? Say Tehillim. It's not for me. He goes to Warsaw. From Warsaw, he goes to Italy. From Italy, he goes to Spain. From Spain starts the whole thing with the kind of chokhmah profession that he learns and so forth and so on. Going to Italy is going into, yielding to taivas and urges. As said in the Gemara says that, how did Rome start? It said the time Shlomo Melech took Basparoi. Gabriel, the archangel, put a stick into the water and a reef gathered around it, and Rome was built on that. Rome was Sin City, literally. Italy is the land of Titus. It represents indulging in Titus. Spain, from there he goes to Spain. Spain is the land of philosophy. Even the Jews in the Golden Age were very big into philosophy. Even the Rambam, wrote the guide of the perplexed, which Rabbeinu says, "B'shum panim often don't study it, stay away from it." And the various opinions that the Rambam holds, that the Vilna Gaon said that the accursed philosophy, twisted his heart about these inyanim. Rambam, most important posek in the annals of Am Yisrael. To say the other poskim, the Mfarshei Torah, the Barbanel, the Ibn Ezra, whatever it is, that they're great people as they are, don't learn their Perushim. I mean, it says don't do that. Why? Because their perish is through the angle of philosophy. Once you start asking questions like why not, Moayez, says who, whatever it is, you're gone. It's hard enough when you have your eyes straight on what it is that you need to do and what it is you need not to do. And the struggle of just staying away from the bad stuff and sticking to the good stuff, believe you me, is hard enough as it is, without having to stuff the head with all kinds of questions of says who and so what and los mechop. Leave me alone. Leave me with that. I think I told her a story that I met this reporter in the hospital, and that reporter spoke to me. It was a secular woman and very rude, and she says to me, when we spoke about tshuva, when did you come, did you do tshuva, blah blah, whatever, and then she looks at me as it were like commiserating with me and telling me, but the problem about tshuva, the children, isn't it? When I saw the glee in her eyes, you have a problem, don't you? Huh? Well, sure, but what about the children? So I told her, I don't know what you're talking about. What, am I better than my forefathers? Statistically, Balei Tshuva has about 50-50 chance, that children's 50-50 chance that children will remain from. But it's only that. Most of the time, most of the children are from. It's about 50-50. I said, how am I better than my forefathers? Avram Avinu, 50% of his children, at least, went bad. If we're talking about the children of the concubines, this is Bnei Apilokshin, the children of the concubine, that means at least two. Concubines means two of them. Children of the concubines, it means at least one to each one. So there's another two. So you have 4 children. Out of 4 children, 3 went bad, 1 stayed good. 25% of the children stayed good. Avram Avinu. Yitzchak, 2 children. 50% went bad. And bad. Esav. You're talking about bad. Whoa. That's bad with a capital B. It's only the 3rd generation. Yaakov Avinu, Baruch Hashem, all his children, they're all tzaddikim. I said, I'm the 1st generation. No, we're the 1st generation, We said this ensemble guys. Nevertheless, we accept everyone. We don't approve of their choices. But we accept them, we love them, they're great people. But no, mafshal asad. So Rabbeinu says you shouldn't worry about, how they eventually come out, because Mashiach will fix the neshamas all the way back to Adam Arisha. So she tells me, I didn't think about this that way. It's like, what's the problem right now? The problem with the children? It's a problem. Take a generational look at it. Look at a perspective of history. We just won. It's in Mitzrayim. What do you think? There was no Naftali Bennett in Mitzrayim. There's no Bob Dylan in Mitzrayim. Before Mitzrayim, 20% of the Jews came out of Mitzrayim. Some say only 2%. But the most lenient opinion is that 4/5 of the Jews died in Mitzrayim, finished. %. 1 out of 5 went out. Some say 1 out of 50. Some say 1 out of 500. And the entire Klal Yisrael came out of them. We've been through that before. So keeping on, just being simple. It's so easy to fall into this trap of paroi. He has a position to keep, he has an axe to grind, he has covered, to keep up with, and the brachas, or who am I, I'm going to say, who is Hashem, it all will end up in tears. It's hard enough as it is. Stay away from early questioning. No, I'm only interested so that when I will meet someone who comes to me with these arguments, I'll be able to answer. Don't be such a tzaddik. Stay away. I know this particular reporter, she wanted to talk more about this, but I said, Rabbi Nachman said something. She said something like, I'm angry with Rabbi Nachman. So I looked at her and said, well, maybe you're also angry with the force of gravity. I mean, who the heck are you to be angry with Rabbi Nachman? So I realized, she's insane, and I didn't talk to her anymore. Today I went to eat by someone who happens to know that reporter. And he told me, you don't know how lucky you are because she's so crafty. He says you can never, ever get out with her. With an argument with her. There's no way. He says the only way that I could always do it. I heard what she said. I said, she's nuts. I don't want to talk to her. Goodbye. Finish. Shalom. That's it. That's the way you handle heretics, philosophers, doubters, whatever it is. Think whatever you want to think. Do whatever you want to do. Adios. Out. That's it. I don't want to talk to you. I'm not interested in saving you. I'm not going to correct you. I'm not going to study these books in order to be able to answer you. I don't want any of that. Life is short. What is it? 90, 100 years. That's it. It's not 1,000 years. Even if there been 1,000 years, it still comes to an end. And as I say, there's literally hell to pay. So why? What for? Hashem Abba should help us. We should all have refuah shlema to everyone, and good health to everyone, and a lot of bracha to everyone, begashmias, beberuchnias, a lot of simcha for everyone, a lot of plain, simple, straight emunah, emunah tzaddikim, emunah in the Torah, emunah Shemesh Baruch, obviously, emunah in yourself. Continue to do good stuff. Have a gewaldige week, all of you. And me too, amongst you. Maybe Matzliach.